Wonderful to be here today. Jeff and I have swapped pulpits for Consecration Sunday. So Jeff was at Jonesville United Methodist Church back in May and blew them away. And he asked me to be here this Sunday, and I'm glad to do that. Is Kayla still here? No, not Carly. Kayla. Are you the one who said that Consecration Sunday is boring? Okay, make sure she gets 4 Tootsie Rolls. Yeah, she gets it. Because the story I'm about to tell you is absolutely true. This is not to imply that some of the stories that I tell are not exactly true. It's just that as a preacher, I am allowed to stretch the truth a little bit on occasion. But that is not the case in today's story. It happened exactly as I tell it. It was the summer of 1963. A 7-year-old girl with skinny arms, skinny legs, skinny body, and a giant head lived in Troy, in the Sickaway neighborhood up on Hoosick Street. She was a happy little girl who woke up every morning expecting something wonderful to happen in her life. And this was especially true during summer vacation. So one day she woke up during that summer vacation. She fixed herself a little breakfast, then she walked out the front door and she skipped down the sidewalk down the street and she saw something shiny on the ground. She picked it up. It was 35 cents, a quarter and a dime. You see, she knew it was going to be a good day because she woke up expecting something good would happen in her life. Well, she was beginning to wonder what she should do with that 35 cents. And her dad was the minister at the Methodist Church up there on the top of Hoosick Street. And she thought she might tell Dad about it, but then she realized that he would make her give at least 10 cents to the Sunday school offering, so she wasn't going to do that. Well, she skipped down the street and around the corner, and she went to the local neighborhood market where they had a fabulous candy selection. And she picked out 7 nickel-sized Tootsie Rolls. Now, they're not these little bite-sized things that got passed out this morning. They are the nickel-sized. You could take 5 minutes eating one of those nickel-sized Tootsie Rolls. And as she left that nursery holding those 7 nickel-sized Tootsie Rolls in her hand, she was wondering what she should do with them. First, she thought maybe she would share them with her older sisters. But they were often mean to her, so there was no way she was going to do that. Then she thought maybe she ought to tell her mother. But then she remembered that her mother would probably take them from her and dole them out as treats for setting the table or cleaning her room or something. So she decided she wouldn't do that. So instead, she skipped back down the sidewalk, skipped into the backyard, sat down on the back stairs, and she ate 7 nickel-sized Tootsie Rolls, one after the other, 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 after the other. Because this 7-year-old girl with the skinny arms, the skinny legs, and the skinny body and a giant head woke up every morning expecting something wonderful would happen for her. She lived believing the world was her Tootsie Roll. Just like us. My friends, just like us. Grace comes to us day after day, and we give no more thought to it than that little 7-year-old girl who woke up expecting something wonderful would happen for her. Grace comes to us every day in the breath of life, in the food we eat, in the tasks we have, the jobs we have, the friendships we share, the families we enjoy, this church that we enjoy. Grace comes to us each and every day, and we don't even know it. We can't even see it. We just take it for granted. This is the way we are. This is our human condition. This is how each one of us starts on the spiritual path. And then something happens somewhere between our 7th and our 70th year of age. We wake up. Not only do we see the world as our Tootsie Roll, we wonder, well, where do Tootsie Rolls come from? Where do the good things of life come from? Hey, where does life come from? Where does grace come from? And so we take the first and giant step in the spiritual journey, the quest for God. Now we begin to become aware of God sightings and God incidents, we can call them. Now we become aware that God is present in our life in strange, mysterious, but very often ordinary and practical ways. Now we begin to sense that behind grace, we experience a presence, a person, a companion. Now we find a spiritual community, a church, where we can exercise our faith and strengthen our growing faith in God. Now we worship in spirit and truth, because in truth, God's Spirit begins to move powerfully within us and between us and through us. For now we wonder, where do Tootsie Rolls come from? And then something else happens between our 7th and 70th year. We wake up again. Not only do we see the world as our Tootsie Roll, not only do we begin to wonder where Tootsie Rolls come from, now we begin to wonder, what should we do with our Tootsie Rolls? We begin to give thanks with a grateful heart. We begin to give thanks by sharing our talents, our time, our gifts, our service. We begin to become reliable, dependable disciples of our brother and Lord Jesus Christ. We begin to give and give and give and give again, not because we have to, but because we want to. We begin to see support of church, support of our church, support of this church as the best investment we can make in our lives, for our family, for the community, for the world, for this life, for now, and for our future. We begin to consecrate our financial commitment to our church as a vow to love the Lord with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. For now we wonder, what must we do with our Tootsie Rolls? Of course, we're not really talking about Tootsie Rolls today. We're really talking about God's grace in our lives. As Paul wrote in his second letter to the church at Corinth, and God is able to provide you with every abundance of blessing. That's God's grace. That you may always have enough of everything. That's God's grace. So that you may provide in abundance for every good work. That's our and your sharing of God's grace. Does God provide you with every blessing in abundance? Does God provide you with every blessing in abundance? Does God? I don't hear it. Does God provide you with more than you need? Does God provide you the opportunity to share your blessings and your grace with others through this church? Absolutely. I know that because the other night I spent some time with 20 of your friends from this church, and they told me why Prince of Peace Lutheran Church is a wonderful church for them. And I'm going to ask the ushers to begin to pass out those Consecration Sunday cards, but don't get lost in what they're doing. Just listen, pay attention. Hear what your friends told me. They talked about meaningful worship. That this church has meaningful worship. They talked about the excellence of the preaching from Amber, Jeff. They talked about the excellence of the praise team. And I heard it today. What a wonderful praise team. Can you just congratulate them for a minute? Now, I want to tell you, we have a little praise team over at Jonesville, We do, and we love our little praise team. Like yours, it's homegrown. And I will just say this, in comparison to the two praise teams, that at the Methodist Church, more of us clap, but you have far better rhythm. We're just, you were all on the upbeat. That was so, we have half the people are, just can't get it. And that whole shine one, never. We would never even attempt something as complicated as that. But what a wonderful sound to begin, to freely begin our worship experience today. They talked about the strength of your Christian education program, which serves everyone from toddlers to seniors. I saw a piece of that right now when Nancy was sharing a children's message with some beautiful. Do you know how fortunate you are? No, I don't think you do. I really don't. To have children in church. Most of the churches in this, synod, they don't have children in church. You are blessed. And so when they, make a little noise or cry out, and one of you warned me about their 2-year-old already, that's a blessing because it means you have life. There's life in the congregation. They spoke of the growing nursery school, the joy of Sunday school and youth ministries. And 2 weeks ago, I had a chance to enjoy some of your youth when the King's Clown Troupe led worship at Jonesville United Methodist Church. And I got to see, there's a clown here in church other than Amber. Amber is terrific. She's a lifelong clown. She started as a child here, I think. There's another clown who had her first experience being a clown. That was Carly. She was at Carly, stand up for a minute, would you? Excellent, excellent. Give her a hand. Right there. And there were two large men. I can't see that far. I can't even see the first pew. Who are? Is Josh up there? Is Cameron up there? Cameron, are you the one who, when you walked down the aisle, the whole rafters were shaking and the trustees were nervous the thing was going to fold? Okay. And then there was another Cameron. He was doing sound. And then there was a very exuberant teenage girl who could skip she skipped like a 7-year-old girl. What's her name? Bella. They shared their joy with Jonesville United Methodist Church. What a gift that you have, that you've helped generate and you receive back for yourselves. They talked about the wealth of adult study opportunities, from the Monday afternoon exploration of the Gospel of John, I think with Jeff, to the REACH education program, and we enjoyed that today with some people from Captain, to the Tuesday evening movie discussion group, Reel to Reel. That's clever. I like that. I'm going to steal that, Jeff. And then your friends told me about the many ways you serve as Christ's hands and feet in this hungry and hurting world, ways like your 30-year mission to serve the poor in Chile, ways like developing a sister relationship with the Herkimer Lutheran Church, helping clean them out, muck them out, get them rebuilt and refurnished and painted up and back in business after Hurricane Sandy. Ways like starting the Fix-It crew to help local families who need repair work done on their homes. Is there anybody here who works in the Fix-It crew? Well, Jeff's looking for other volunteers. I'll tell you that right now. Ways like providing worship services for the residents at Beacon Point and Schuyler Ridge. Ways like opening the doors of the church to the Brownies, the Girl Scouts, the 12 Steps programs, the Cub Scouts, the Boy Scouts, more 12-step programs, and a dozen other service and support groups. But mostly, your friends told me about the warm-hearted community they find here. And it all begins in communion, doesn't it? The communion at this table, at the Lord's table. where you have removed every hindrance, every restriction, every judgment that could be a barrier for anyone from God's grace. You know what I'm talking about? And your recent history? That's important. And so you welcome anyone and everyone to the grace of God lived out at Prince of Peace Lutheran Church. You've recently welcomed some new friends and members into the congregation. I think last spring with a celebration of welcoming Grace to Prince of Peace and Prince of Peace to Grace. I grew up about 4 blocks from Grace. Is there anybody from Grace here? Beautiful church. I remember when it was built, I was the kid riding the bike in and out of the parking lot and being chased around by the workmen. But I'm not, for legal reasons, I'm not allowed to say. We'll talk about that later. I want to hear your story, and I'll tell you mine. So in a few minutes, you're going to be making your financial commitments for the ministry and the mission of this church, Prince of Peace. So I'm going to ask you to take out the pledge card that you picked up. If you're by yourself, take the pledge card. If you're with your family, hold it together, and let's share a prayer together. Gracious God, loving God, I thank you for this most excellent day. I thank you for drawing us together to this church and to this moment of consecration. I thank you for the abundance of your grace in our life, more than enough for every day. I thank you for the freedom and the gift of being able to share our grace with others, within and without and beyond the church, to the world around us. And I ask that you bless us in our time together today. Open our minds. Give us a vision of how you want this gift to be used in this church. And open our hearts to be generous givers. In the name of our brother and Lord Jesus Christ, so be it. Now I'm going to ask that maybe some parts of the praise team get together and play just a little quiet music. And as you fill out the commitment cards,